Welcome to Majority Rules, Season 1, Episode 6. This is a podcast about Mizzou Athletics Majority, which is Olympic sports athletes. The three of us are coming to you from the J School, which some people say, I don't know, me included, calls it J School Best School. We will have Rory joining us later. We'll input her video, and Abigail is not with us tonight. She had a late class. So we're all in the same room to try to prevent a bunch of extra noise. There might not be a ton of interaction between us. So that might be a good thing. We'll see. So, hi, I'm Karen. I am the host of this podcast, softball and gymnastics beat writer and the Olympic sports manager at Rock M Nation.
Okay, I am Dylan Heinrich. I am the current soccer and women's basketball writer here for Rock M. So we're going to have a lot of soccer talk going on today.
And I am Matthew Gustafson, the wrestling and volleyball beat writer at Rock M. And I'm going to have a lot of stuff to talk to you about today.
All right. So that sounded weird, but you know, we're all in the same room, so we're just going to go with it. So let's start with in-season sports updates. So Dylan, Matthew, and I just came from Tiger Talk, where they had decided last minute to share with the rest of us that was going to be happening and that it was going to feature all of Olympic sports. So we got to hear from a number of different coaches for all the sports that we covered. So we thought that we would share out some of that stuff. So we will start with Dylan. There was a game. Just like I said last week, it was bad. Yep.
Yeah, so there were two games that happened. We'll start on the really bad first. Loss on the road to Arkansas, 8-2. Just couldn't get things going in the first half. This is a very talented Arkansas team from front to back. They're arguably the best team in the nation. So they controlled the entire first half, put in more of their subs later on. Mizzou kind of fought back. They saw what this offense can be. Goals from Leah Selm and Kylie Simmons leaves you feeling a little bit better, especially as they were able to kind of solve that Razorback back line, see what some of those passes could be in those situations. So it's still a learning process. And to get those goals against those top teams, it's definitely good exposure moving on. The game I do really want to focus on is the A&M game. That was a much more competitive, close game. A&M made the tournament last year. Very much a team that most people would say is better than Mizzou, but Mizzou hung with them for the entire time. And really, I don't want to say that they were cheated out of a win, but it was a very interesting situation because during the goal, it was originally off a corner kick that hit off of the elbow forearm area. So it's not a handball of Rachel Catella, but she had to go be looked at a trainer because of blood issues. And so when they went to go look at her, they looked at her real quick, got her cleared up, and she was going to come back on the pitch. But the ref was basically saying, hey, you can't do that. You got to sit this one out. Either bring a sub on or don't bring anybody on, which, I mean, I don't know if it makes sense. Like, if you're going to bring a sub, why not just bring the original player? This is the goal from Leah Selm in the Arkansas game. So they brought in Callaway Combs, a freshman. You could tell the defensive line was really scrambled. I think I even said in the press box, they're going to score here. Sure enough, off the corner kick, A&M gets the goal. Missouri's offense doesn't get close enough. And instead of sharing points with a very good team, they drop it, and they're now one of two teams without any points in the SEC. So it's not been a good start for Mizzou soccer. They've been close, but they haven't quite figured it out. I think injuries have also played a pretty big part of that. A lot of players have missed time. Kylie Simmons has not started several games due to minute restrictions. Melena Fisher, same thing. Bella Hollenbach has missed a game and missed a half. She also had to be removed late in the game against Arkansas for an apparent arm/shoulder injury. So her status is definitely unknown for their next game. So it's a lot of unknowns and a lot of still who's going to step up for this team with all these people that are getting hurt. And at the end of the day, it comes down to, can this offense score those key goals Doesn't get much easier with Alabama, who's a very, very talented team. I believe they're 7-2-2 so far on the year. Both of their ties coming in SEC play against Texas, who's also a top 15 team, especially traveling Tuscaloosa, doesn't give you a lot of hope. Playing Florida at home, they're a bottom 3 team in the SEC. They're very much a team like Mizzou that's still looking for an identity. Just being straight up, you have to win that game. If you're Mizzou, you need those 3 points to stay competitive and stay in this race, as they've expanded the SEC tournament from 10 teams when it was 14 to 12 with 16. So not everyone makes the tournament, but a lot of teams do. Your goal around that mark is going to be 10 points, 11 points. So 3 wins, a tie or 2 will get you in the running. And they got to get one of those against Florida, maybe sneak out a point, or maybe even a win against Bama. But you got to start racking up quickly. Otherwise, teams are just going to keep passing you.
How do you get points?
I should have clarified that. So soccer is different, that they work on wins and losses, but wins count as 3 points, and a tie counts as 1, and a loss counts as 0. So it's very much like the tables in the World Cup, or like hockey, where they go off a point style. So those wins are going to be so valuable. You're going to want to grab those ties every now and again. And so then you got to avoid those losses at all costs. So the Mizzou is currently no wins, no ties, no losses. Same with Ole Miss. So Alabama has no wins, no losses, but 2 ties. So they currently have 2 points. So they are also winless in SEC play, but they are above the Tigers due to those tie breaks, quite literally.
Okay, I think I had forgotten that it was kind of like hockey. That makes sense. So I wanted to ask, so we were just at Tiger Talk, like I said. Do you have any takeaways from the chat that Matt Michaels had with associate head coach Stutz?
Yes, associate head coach Andy Stutz. It's just good to hear from him. You don't get to hear a lot from the associate head coach. It's always Golan in the forefront. Stutz is also a very, very competent head coach, was a big part of that Minnesota team that Golan had a lot of success with. He had his own little run at Louisville, then rejoined the team with Mizzou. It was really a lot of the same stuff that you've kind of heard. Really, it's definitely something you should go listen to. It's a really good way to kind of introduce yourself, especially to those seniors that are spending their last year here, especially ones like Leah Selm or Rachel Catella, who don't quite get the shine that maybe a Kylie Simmons or a Bella Hollenbach does. But I think something that came out very interesting is this wasn't from Tiger Talk, but this came out earlier today, is the news of them classifying Bella Hollenbach, the goalkeeper, as a senior, because she came in this is technically her 4th year at Mizzou, as a redshirt junior. In terms of eligibility wise, I was informed that within the program, she will be graduating in the spring, and her plans for next year are undecided. She does have 1 year left of collegiate soccer, so it's very much up in the air, but she is going to be honored at senior night, which is Florida coming up. So it'll be a very interesting and a very hard game against Florida. Definitely a lot of seniors who were not originally recruited by Stephanie Golan, but really I think was this first class that really brought her in and helped see all the way through. So it'll be a pretty emotional night there at the pitch. Hopefully can get the win to go along with it.
So is this the last home game?
No. So
okay. I thought I was going crazy.
Soccer does it very odd, where they do your senior day just in the middle of the season. So like it'll just be, they have a reason for it. I've been told the reason. I have since forgotten that reason. So I'll report back on next week's majority rules when I have that reasoning. But for now, they've got plenty of home games ahead. But for this one, they will be honoring the seniors. Wish I could name all of them off the top of my head. There's too many on the soccer roster, but I know highlighting the group is Bella Hollenbach, Rachel Catella on the back line, Leah Selm in the midfield. I think those are some of the big names and faces that you've seen kind of start, or Milena Fisher as well, be consistent producers within this program. They're the ones that you really think of when you think of Mizzou soccer, along with Kylie Simmons.
Hello, younger Bella. It has been a long journey. There have been ups and downs throughout the last couple of years. Have been Hello, younger Bella. It has been a long journey. There have been ups and downs throughout the last couple of years. Injuries have been overcome and new friends have been made along the way. Although the road at times was tough, whether that included the injuries, being homesick, or any other factors, we have persevered through it all. We have become a stronger person and continue to live by the values we cherish. On another note, we have made it to where we always wanted to be, even if there were people standing in our way. We have accomplished a lot, but there's always room to grow and be better. It may not seem like it, but these past 4 years have gone by fast. So let's continue to make this year and this season one of the greatest.
That's nice. All right. So last thing, what are you working on, Dylan?
Yes. So for Mizzou soccer, what we've got coming out on my end is we will have Tiger Talks previewing this Alabama and Florida team more in depth. I did a little bit of background research in my SEC preview I put out about a week and a half ago, but I will get down to the nitty gritty about the Gators and the Tide in this coming out Thursday. I'm almost finished up with it to be on Miss Karen Steger's desk here in a second, but other than that,
What's that?
I'm in the early workings of a feature with Landis Canada, who has been kind of the unsung hero, the freshman who I believe has started every single game, been just solid in the midfield, already has a goal, is doing all the little dirty work as a freshman, which you usually don't see a lot of, and so I think her story is one that'll be very intriguing to tell. So got a couple things in the works, and of course, got games Thursday and Sunday. Let's roll with it.
Awesome. So then let's go to Matthew, who has updates from the really coolly named Lippy Invite in Music City.
All right. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of unique names for tournaments. You look at golf, track and field, they'll have some fun names. You look at cross country, they were at the Spiked Shoe Invitational at Penn State. But, in volleyball, you'll get a lot of Mizzou Invitational, Blue Jay Invitational. Like these really straightforward, kind of boring names. We need fun volleyball names, right? We need fun volleyball tournament names. I love the Lippy Invite. It's a great name. I wish that Mizzou would have something a little bit more uniquely named. Maybe have it be the Krecklow Invitational. I mean, the Krecklows were just named to the Mizzou Athletics Hall of Fame. Who knows? But why don't we actually talk about what actually happened on the court now at the Lippy Invite, starting on the Thursday night match. Mizzou played the host Lipscomb, who sneaky good opponent. You wouldn't necessarily think of Lipscomb as a volleyball power, but they are one of the better teams in the Atlantic Sun, and they are a team that absolutely looks like they could be an NCAA tournament team this year. Tigers took care of business first two sets. They ended up dominating 25-17, 25-16, and that really showed in the stats as well. And then once you got to the third set, things kind of slowed down a little bit. Lipscomb had by far its greatest set offensively. They won that one very narrowly, 25-23. We've talked about this team kind of has that third set slump sometimes when they're up to nothing and it looks like they're headed towards an easy sweep. It's happened 3 or 4 times so far this season. And to be fair, it's not a phenomenon that's just exclusive to Mizzou. A lot of teams go through it. But it looked like the final set might be a little close as well. And that's when Jordan Iliff struck with six consecutive aces. That is a serving run unlike anything I have ever seen. The run spanned 2 timeouts by Lipscomb. They tried to ice her twice, and it failed both times. And by the way, this run was started off by her kill. So she got the kill, allowing her to serve, and then she got the 6 straight aces for a 7-0 run, which put the game out of reach for Lipscomb. The Tigers were unstoppable on offense. They had a 420 hitting percentage. Lipscomb ended up hitting 207, and that number was significantly worse in the first 2 sets. The defense really impressed me in this one in the first 2 sets, both at the net. They were preventing them from getting really any open looks. And then the back row defense was impressive as well. That's something that's really encouraging for me to see, is that their back row defense has been quite strong at times in the last 2 weekends. And that's something that can make for a really big step up for this team. Jordan Iliff led the way in this match, 19 kills, 536 hitting percentage to go with 7 aces and 13 digs. Now moving on to that Illinois match, a 5-set thriller. Really up and down between these two teams. Comfortable first set win, 25-17. It looked like they may end up cruising to a victory. Not the case. Illinois comes back 25-22 in set 2. Looks like a much improved team. They battle that out in set 3. Mizzou wins 25-21. And the 4th set, Illinois wins 25-21. And it all goes down to the 5th set, which the Tigers ended up taking 15-12. So when you look at the stats for this match, they're really even. I mean, you look at it, Mizzou had 236, Illinois had 226. They had similar numbers of service errors, similar numbers of service aces, very similar number of blocks. Side out percentage was very comparable. So when you look at it, it was really, really close between these two teams. Mizzou would go on a run, and then Illinois would go on a run immediately after to tie it up again or take the lead. Then it would be Mizzou's turn. Illinois just would not go away in this match. I think the Tigers did deserve to win it for sure. This wasn't like a Vanderbilt-Mizzou football scenario or anything like that, but Illinois was just a really tough team that made it as tough a win as possible for Mizzou. But in the end, they had a clutch late run. Jordan Iliff was key. She had the final kill and then ended the match with a service ace, fittingly enough for her weekend. She had 24 kills, a career high in this match. Again, if there was a all-tournament team for this tournament, she would have been the MVP. I have zero doubt about that. And one of the other interesting things, we learned this at Tiger Talk. I didn't see anything posted about it.
Hold on. I got that for you.
While you're researching that, something we learned at Tiger Talk was she actually sprained her ankle in set 2 in that match. So she was able to fight her way through it. She had a phenomenal performance. And given that, I wouldn't expect there to be any issues for this upcoming weekend. Looking at some other players as well, Eisenberg continuing to have a big role. It looks like she may be back in that starting lineup. It had been Reagan Hayes the first couple of weekends. Morgan Eisenberg pushing for playing time. She was 2nd in total blocks in the SEC last season, but had been supplanted by Hayes, and that really just shows the depth of this team. And then another one, Marina Crownover. She was the SEC Setter of the Week after the Mizzou Invitational, started both matches in this Lippy Invite. And if she starts both matches again in the SEC weekend opener, then I think it's safe to say that she is now the cemented starter at setter for this team. And I think that, and this is something that Sullivan had said during Tiger Talk, phenomenal defense. She provides fantastic defense from front row, back row. That's a real asset for this team, and it may be a reason why we've seen an increase in that defense in the back row with this team. That being said, I think that Sierra Dudley maybe is a little bit cleaner when it comes to setting, but at the same time, we've seen with players like Jordan Iliff, Michael Vernon, they are able to adjust if the set is maybe a little bit off. So I think that they're really impressed with Crownover's defense right now, and that's what's leading to her having such a big role.
Yeah, so that was a tournament game.
There was. Okay.
Lippy Invitational.
Or there you go. So
I didn't think anybody even heard my.
there did end up being a tournament team. I guess I either forgot about that or missed that. But Jordan Iliff, Janet Demery, and then Marina Crownover making the all-tournament team there. So again, continuing her strong run of play. It looks like they didn't name an MVP, but again, I am absolutely certain that Isla would have been the MVP if they had named one. Now, looking ahead to this week, SEC play starts up. They're going to be in Baton Rouge, which, fun fact for y'all, is French for red stick, on Friday for their season opener. That's just really funny to me that there's a town which is just named Red Stick.
I'll believe you.
Anyway, back to volleyball. Friday, the SEC opener, they're going to be playing LSU at the Maravich Assembly Center. Now, LSU is 8-3, but when you're going through these results, not exactly the most impressive, including they're coming off of a sweep where they were swept by San Diego. And they also, I believe, have losses to New Hampshire, among other. No, they won 5 sets with New Hampshire. So this is a team that is not going to be towards the top of the SEC, a team that the Tigers should beat. Now, we've seen them have some surprising results before, right? And they lost at LSU last year. But this is a game that should be a win for the Tigers to open up SEC play. Where it gets more interesting, though, is they go to College Station on Sunday to face Texas A&M. And this is a team that they really had A&M's number last year. They swept the series. They had Janet Demeray had a massive performance in College Station in her home state, and they ended up beating the Aggies on the road. But this is a team that's looking really solid. They're 9-1. They defeated top 25 Baylor 3-1 in an exhibition match before the year. Really strong results pretty much across the board. They did go 5 sets with New Hampshire, who apparently just goes 5 sets with every SEC team they face. Couldn't tell you about that. Their only losses to top 10 Wisconsin, they were swept. So that is going to be a really tough challenge. I would say that given it's on the road, it's probably going to be a toss-up match. These teams are going to be fairly equivalent, fairly similar in these SEC standings. I think both of them were projected to be between 5 and 10 in the standings for the SEC in the preseason poll. So I think that if you win at LSU, like you're expected to, and then you take that A&M match where, because it's on the road, it's kind of a toss-up, that's a really encouraging start to SEC play, and that's something that shows us that Mizzou has a chance to contend towards the top end of this conference.
Awesome, thank you. And then I guess I'm going to talk about softball because it's, at least for now, in season. Kind of in season. It's fall ball season. Fall ball starts this week. On Friday, they will open their season with a matchup against Missouri State at 7 o'clock. I will be there. I will try to have some takeaways after the game. We were told at Tiger Talk tonight that we can't sit in the press box and there's no media availability. So, I'm just going to do the best I can. But what I can tell you is we have a semi-hype video, which I thought seemed pretty exciting. Let me make sure I'm getting the right one. Nope, it's not that one or that one. I think it is this one.
Holding each other back.
Hold on.
Drop a knee. Hold each other accountable. Okay, you got to continue to look to your left and your right. When you guys are running, it's not about you just finishing. It's about making sure the team finishes. When we're playing as a team, we got to make sure that everybody's doing their part. If we don't all do our part, we're holding each other back.
Man, I miss Larissa Anderson. Love that lady. So that's pretty exciting that's going to be back. Natalie Touche, everyone's favorite softball vlogger, is also back. I guess Brian Smith I think we knew already that he was at the Diamond dinner at the Diamond dinner on the Diamond. And she, interviewed him, and he said that no offense, I think he basically said like no offense to baseball, but softball's faster. He likes the softball games because they're faster paced and more fun or something like that. So Brian Smith, noted softball enthusiast. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. So the other thing I was going to share is we have our first official news that Mizzou will be playing in the NFC Leadoff Classic, which is my parents' favorite event because, oh my gosh, where did I go? Because they go to it. So they'll be really excited. So here's their lineup here. So they will face Marshall, who was 25-28 last year. Northwestern, who was 35-13 and lost in the regionals to number 1 seed Texas, who is now in the SEC. Yay. Penn State, who was 35-20, made the NCAA tournament and lost to 2 seed Texas State, which I didn't know happened. Notre Dame, who was 27-23 last year. And finally, everyone should know what that logo stands for. The Tigers, who had their dreams dashed. Broke my heart. Broke Dylan's heart. Broke the hearts of Tiger fans everywhere. They will rematch with the Duke Blue Devils, who were 52-9 last year. But after they beat Mizzou, they did lose both of their games in the Women's College World Series. So, you know, there's a plus from that.
I believe that's what they call Schadenfreude.
So, yeah. Let me take that off the screen. So, yeah, so fall ball starts this Friday. They have Missouri State. Then next weekend, they travel to Kansas City to face the Kansas City Roos. And then next Sunday, they are in this place called Lawrence. I don't know. I never heard of it. To face a school called Little K, Big U next Sunday. Before they have 2 more games at home the following week. But we will cover here at Rock M Nation and on Rock M Plus. Writing-wise, I'll have, like I said already, some takeaways from that first game. And I think I'm probably going to do a little piece on the opponents for the Leadoff Classic. We'll see, you know. Got to get some writing in there.
Hey guys, new week, new golf update for you. And it's going to be one that you definitely want to listen to. So the Johnny Ives Invitational was in Columbia for the women's golf team. And while that was today and yesterday for me, I don't know when this is getting uploaded. It's the 24th and 23rd of September. So by the time you're watching this, it'll be too late to go. But it is never too late to tune into the women's golf season. If I could give you a pitch to follow golf in general or the women's team, it would be, you need to relax. Golf is perfect for that. You know, you don't have to run around everywhere. You don't have to run after, you know, cross-country players out on the course. It's not a lot of back and forth watching. It's calm. It's relaxing. It's also super easy to follow, which is my second point. You don't need to know anything crazy about the sport to understand it right off the bat. And my third point, your Missouri Tigers are killing it. It's definitely something you're going to want to follow. After day 1 of this invitational, the Tigers were in 4th place as a team. The 2 big stars were Fleur Van Beek and Melanie Walker. Beek was tied for 8th shooting a 73, which was 1 over par. Now, the rest of the team also played really well for the Tigers to be in 4th place. After day 1, they came in at 19th, 3 were tied at 39th, and 1 in 64th. Now, there was some weather issues which caused a big delay and actually shortened day 1 from 36 holes to 18. So there is a little bit of a score difference there, but it doesn't take anything away from the players. It was still a rough tournament, especially with these weather conditions. Lots and lots of rain. Day 2, which was today, Van Beek posts 2 under par to put her in a 2nd place finish. Now, this was huge for her. This is her 2nd straight top 10 finish and the 3rd of her career. So she's on a roll. And they're playing this weekend too. So we could see 3 straight top 10 finishes for Van Beek. That is definitely something you are going to want to keep an eye on moving forwards. Now, Fionn Hinan jumped 14 spots. Remember the player I was just saying that finished in 19th? Yeah, no, she jumped all the way to 5th place. 3 birdies in that front 9 helped put her there, and it was the first top 5 finish of her career. Now, it was a tie for 5th place, but that still does not take away from an incredible accomplishment for that golfer. Now, the Tigers are back in action at the end of the week in Fayetteville. The men will also be in Arkansas. I'll provide updates on my Twitter. I was posting a couple things on there today, just kind of an update on the tournament, which helped that it was in Columbia. But guys, that golf content is rolling. So follow Missouri men's golf, follow Mizzou women's golf, anything to keep you updated on the sport. The Tigers, they're making a wave at the start of this season, and it's definitely something I'm super excited about. I'm super excited to keep you guys in the loop with that. Articles coming forward with them. You should catch a recap from me soon. I don't know what the timing of this video, when that'll be, but I'll have a recap up from the tournament. And then I'll have another recap, hopefully, depending on how much content we get, from this upcoming weekend in Arkansas for both the men and women's team. Now, if we're talking out of sports, it's baseball season, guys. I really needed this win. I'm a Chicago Bears fan, Chicago Cubs fan, and neither of them were in my good graces this week. But baseball being around the corner collegiately, that's where they get me. So fall ball is approaching for Missouri. They will be at UIC back in my homeland of Chicago this weekend. And then they'll be back in Columbia for their mini college World Series next weekend, which I will hopefully be attending and have content for you guys. So again, make sure you follow that Twitter. I'll give you some updates, and I will also definitely be doing a recap for that series. But overall, great weekend from the Tigers in golf. Will be a great weekend for the Tigers in baseball. But just to recap for you guys, I know that was a lot of information I was throwing at you because I'm super excited about this. But second place finish for your Missouri women. They finished 14 over par with Florida Gulf Coast taking the crown there. They shot 1 under, but an improvement from the first tournament for this women's team. So I'm super excited to see how they will continue to improve this next weekend.
I also have some tennis updates because I've been bad about looking for tennis. Whoops. Sorry, tennis. Love you. So they are currently playing at the Country Club, Missouri, since we know that Mizzou's facility is literally unusable. So they are playing at the Country Club currently. They put out a nice little video. So they're practicing at their home stadium, the Country Club of Missouri. Okay, enough of that. Anyway, besides that, so last Sunday they wrapped up play at the Penn Invitational, and they tallied 12 total wins. So whereas they didn't end up like coming away with 12 first place finishes, it took me a bit to understand this. They did come away with 12 different victories, 5 from doubles and the rest from singles. The interesting thing that I found is that 2 of their more successful doubles duos actually are made up of an upperclassman and a freshman. I thought that was kind of cool. So apologies always if I butcher these people's names. Canet and Rosso. So Canet is a senior, Rosso's a freshman. And then Bashir and Akta, they're a grad student and freshman combo. So I thought that was kind of cool. According to MUTires.com, Bianca Girardi said after the game, she said, good level of doubles play today, even though we came up a little short with the scores. That in singles, the team was tired and suffered fatigue after 3 long days, so the competition was quite long. It just means that after a few days off to recover, we'll need to work even harder on the court and in the gym. Congrats to Layla Bashir on her win in singles. It was my first chance to watch 3 of our newcomers compete. Now we have a better idea of what we need to work on more specifically. Overall, a lot of positive takeaways from this trip. Bashir, in case you didn't know, is a transfer from Bellarmine, and she is a Mississippi State champ in both tennis and basketball. Duo sports there. Next up for tennis, the ITA Regional Championships in Memphis, October 9th through 14th. Moving on to out of season sports. Dylan, you don't have anything for women's basketball, right?
I'll just say really quickly, practices have officially started for NCAA winter sports. So that goes for men and women's basketball. I'll show Rock'em will have a lot of coverage on the women's side for us. Not really looking at a lot yet. We're going to start to get practices, media days that will be coming your way shortly, along with a couple previews. But for now, we're kind of taking the week back. We're taking it chill, but be ready. It's coming. It's coming like a freight train. So we'll be there in a minute.
Awesome. Thank you. I will get to a couple of swim and dive updates real quick as they're on the cusp of in season-ish. They are holding their black and gold inter-squad meet next Friday at 4 at Mizzou Aquatic Center. But their first actual meet, a Purdue duel, isn't until the end of October. So they've got this little thing next week, and then nothing until the end of the month. So I don't know if Rory will be able to make it, but I'm going to plan on attending the black and gold inter-squad meet. And I know that our new photographer, Mike, is going to plan to be there too. So we'll have at least some swim and dive coverage. Very excited because I'm a former swimmer and coach myself. Also, congrats to Ethan Vance, who is from Osage Beach, Missouri, Camdenton High School, on being named to the national junior team. Let me pull up his little blurb here. Is that it? There we go. Ethan was named to the national junior team. This is his first year on the team, and athletes can make it by being one of the top 4 fastest athletes in an Olympic event. So, like, one of the events he did really well in was the 50 fly, but the 50 butterfly is not a contested Olympic event, so can't technically make the national junior team in that. But he is a 50 freestyler. He, in prelims, eclipsed the 1800 national record. pretty awesome. You also finished second in the 100 freestyle with a personal best time and third in the 100 butterfly. It was my old event, the personal best time. So congrats. Moving on. Night you. Wrestling.
All right, you got some softball schedule updates. Now it's time for wrestling. And we have finally the entire wrestling schedule. Not only all home and away matches, but also the dates for all of those. I'll just go through it. You have the black and gold scrimmage is going to be the first opportunity to see the Tigers in action. That's going to be October 21st. The season opener November 2nd in Colorado against Northern Colorado. Then they come back to the state of Missouri, at least, for the Tiger-style invite. That's going to be hosted at Staley High School in Kansas City. And then they have a long stretch on the road. They're going to have Virginia Tech, Illinois, Northern Iowa. They're at the Cougar Clash on December 7th. Some of you may remember the Cougar Clash. They were participants last year, but they had a dual meet with Oklahoma the night before. So there were only a few of the starters that participated. They may have some more starters participate this year. That would be my expectation. And then one of the big ones, the collegiate duels on December 21st and 22nd. There are going to be some premier programs that will be there, including, all right, here we go. So there's Mizzou, Iowa State, and Little Rock. But I would assume that Mizzou will not face them because they are already on the schedule. Little Rock is at the Tiger-style invite. Iowa State is the season finale. And then outside of that, here are the participants. Binghamton, Lock Haven, really solid wrestling program. They're D3 and I think basically everything else except for wrestling. North Carolina. And then the big ones are Ohio State and the Dynasty, the defending national champions, the Penn State Nittany Lions. So there is a possibility that Mizzou faces the defending national champs in wrestling. That would be very big, and I believe that Penn State has one of the top contenders at 174 pounds as well. If I remember correctly, and I would have to double check this, but Levi Haynes, who was a top contender, may have won a national title at 157, has moved up to 174. So that would be one of the top opponents for Keegan O'Toole. So you may get to see those two go head-to-head. By the way, Keegan O'Toole, Flow Wrestling came out with preseason rankings in late August, is the number one wrestler at 174 pounds, and the number two wrestler.
That is new weight class, number one? Damn!
Yeah, that 174 has kind of been wide open. A lot of people have moved away from that weight class for whatever reason this offseason. Like 184 pounds is absolutely absurd. It's loaded with top talent. But 174, Keegan O'Toole is probably the preseason favorite for the national title at that weight class, which would give him his third national title at Mizzou. And like I was saying, he is the number 2 pound-for-pound wrestler in their rankings behind Carter Storace, the 4-time national champion. So that means that they see him as the second best collegiate wrestler in the country. Now, moving on to the rest of the schedule, you have Cornell. That is going to be the regular season home opener in early January. And they have 5 home matches in the month of January, 5 of their 6. That's Cornell, Stanford, Utah Valley, Arizona State, West Virginia. And then you have an Oklahoma trip late. That's going to be the 1st and 2nd of February. You face OU and then Okie State. And then you round it out with Iowa State in late February before the Big 12s and NCAA championships. So an interesting kind of arrangement to this schedule. They don't have kind of that road gauntlet they had towards the end of last year in the Big 12s. In the Big 12 schedule, you get Iowa State. There's a big gap between when they face Oklahoma and Oklahoma State and then when they face Iowa State. And then you have a pretty packed January schedule. But honestly, this kind of is a favorable schedule Big 12-wise for them, at least in terms of the dates when these are happening and then the home versus away. They're facing almost all of the top teams in the Big 12 outside of South Dakota State, and then really outside of SDSU, they're facing, I think, all top 5 teams in the Big 12, if not top 6 or 7. So this is a tough schedule for the Tigers, and we're also going to learn a lot about them because, again, they get that Northern Colorado duel right off the bat, which I think is going to be really interesting. And one more thing before we move on, I'd like to note, look at the bottom of that post right there. You'll see from left to right, Rocky Elam, Keegan O'Toole, and Noah Certain. Just look at Rocky and Keegan, very serious, very stern expressions, right? Like they're in an actual match. And then there's just Noah Certain, like being goofy, smiling in it. I just thought that was really funny when I noticed it. I only noticed that the second or third time I looked at the schedule. So, yeah, this is a very packed schedule for the team. Lots of top opponents, both in terms of team-wise, individually. And then before I wrap it up, one more thing. When I looked at the Flow Wrestling team rankings, they had the Tigers 7th in the country. And I think that's actually maybe a little low. I think that they underranked some of these wrestlers individually. They also don't have guys like, I believe Cade Moore was unranked at 133 pounds. Seth Nitzel will likely be ranked by the time we get to the end of the season, in my estimation. So I feel like if 7 is the floor, if that's kind of a lower estimation of what this team can do, that's really encouraging because even if you finish 7th, like that's already an improvement on what they did last season. Now, to be fair, we've talked about it before. There were a lot of extenuating circumstances, a lot of injuries at the end of the year, right, which really bogged them down at the NCAA tournament. But that really shows the upside this team has if their floor is around 7th or 8th or in the bottom of that top 10.
Awesome. Thank you, Matthew. And then I'll wrap up with not a lot of gymnastics, but there is a tiny little bit. They too had their first official day of practice, much like all of the other teams around. In the photos here on the left is Kylie Menard. She is a sophomore. We didn't see her much last year. I don't know if it's that she didn't work her way into the rotation or she was hurt. Not entirely sure. She did primarily beam at the open practice that I watched. She is strong as hell. Then we have Amy Weir, Oklahoma transfer, Amy Weir, on the floor exercise. And this would be, trying to look at her upside down. I think this is freshman Rayleigh Jackson, I believe. So super excited about that. We are extremely ready for gymnastics to get started. College Gym News put out their list of most anticipated freshman series. So they did one for each apparatus and then an all-around. There are a bunch of Mizzou people on there. Kaya Tanskanen, finally had her name right, was listed as an honorable mention on vault. She does perform a 10.0 start value vault, which Nate Sausman told me is called a tusk full. I don't know. It's different. Like most of the other people on Mizzou's team that do a 10.0 vault do the Yurchenko 1.5, which is 1.5 somersaults with the twist added in there. That's what most people do as their 10.0 vault. But she does this different vault. I don't know. It's cool. And then freshman Olivia Kelly was mentioned as anticipated freshman to watch on bars, beam, floor, and all around. That girl is good. She's also a 5-star recruit. So that's really cool. They're just coming back from their team retreat, which they were at a few weekends ago, where Olivia Kelly has notably said in their video that their goal was to make it to nationals, full stop. So I'm going to hold her to that. I think San Antonio, 2025. Here we come. Also on last gymnastics update, they welcomed in 4 2026 people for visits on Saturday. No commitments yet, unless they came in while we were at Tiger Talk. 3 of them were 4 stars. 1 is a 3-star. So me and Nate will be monitoring to see if any new commitments come in from the videos that I've watched on Instagram, because of course I found them all on Instagram and did research. They look pretty powerful. One of them already has a Yurchenko 1.5, 10.0 start volleyball. And there also were some really strong floor performers there. So that would be cool. Weirdly enough, so 2 of them were on their first visit and 2 of them were on their second visit. And the 2 that were on their second visit, who are not from the same place, both also visited Ohio State together. So they both went to Ohio State together, and then they both went to Mizzou together, but they're not from the same place. So it's weird. I don't know. So that takes care of our coverage for today. One last thing before we get off here. Please head to Rock M Nation and support the work of so many student journalists and some really amazing other writers as well. Last week alone, we put out 40-something articles. I don't remember exactly how many it was. It was too many to count, frankly. Yeah, too many for me to count. And starting next week, we also will have position previews for basketball, which the maths have told me is over 20,000 total words.
The other match just worked.
Oh, yeah. The other maths. Watkins and Harris have told me over 20,000 words. That's a lot of words. So you can also help us out by, besides reading everybody's work, you can subscribe to this podcast feed from Rock M Radio and leave us a 5-star review. Leave us some comments. We like lovely, positive comments about how entertaining this is. Please and thank you. You can join our subscription service, Rock M Plus, which I'm hoping that once we get softball, baseball, and that stuff kind of underway, that we'll be utilizing that a little bit more. We haven't used it a lot for Olympic sports thus far. At least I haven't. But Dylan's going to change that. I know he is. So you can subscribe to RockM.Plus. It is super cheap. It's only $5 a month. Only $5 a month. And you can follow us on Twitter at Karen Steger, at M_Gustafson27. That was better.
It was better.
Okay.
You got pretty close.
I'm trying so hard. At Dylan R. Heinrich. At Rory Whetstone7. And at Abigail_Clapp.
With a K.
With a K. Thank you for joining us. And see you next time. MIZ!
ZOU.
It doesn't. Okay. This
saying-
time it isn't our fault. It doesn't really work with the format of us being in the same room.
I get it. Excuses. I'm hearing excuses.
We'll do better next time.
We'll do better next time. Or we won't. Let's see. Bye.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning into Rock M Radio, a proud partner of Fans First Sports Network. Rock M Radio is the official podcast network of Rock M Plus, a new and exciting subscription service provided by me and the other voices of Rock M Radio. Please take a few moments to head over to rockm.plus and sign up for an account today. The cost is only $5 a month, and the benefits include access to our live podcast, a subscriber-only message board, weekly newsletters, and more. If you enjoyed this episode of Rock M Radio and would like to see more just like it beamed directly into your personal device, make sure to click the subscribe button below and tell your friends. Our podcast feed is available through the Apple Podcast app for iPhone, Google Podcast app for Android, whatever app you listen to your podcast. You can also find Rock M Radio on Spotify. If you're looking for a podcast about your favorite team that is not Missouri Tigers, Fan First Sports Network is your answer. A full podcast network loaded with the team-specific podcasts covering Major League Baseball, the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLS, and more. And we'll be back with more episodes of Rock M Radio coming to you soon.